Brought to you by the Minority Media Association and the Broadcasting Club at UWM, celebrating diversity in your area.
Bringing my community to you.
Identifying issues that are important to everyone. Embracing individuality.
Welcome to the U-View.
Hello, and welcome to the U-View, presented by the Broadcast Club and the Minority Media Association at UWM, right here on Pause TV. I'm Norma Ortiz.
And I'm Huyke. El Conquistador is a weekly bilingual newspaper that circulates in Milwaukee, Racine, Conquistador, and Waukesha. It can be found in grocery stores, gas stations, and other small business.
Today, we are joined by Victor Huyke, publisher of El Conquistador. Victor, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the history of El Conquistador. Why was it started, and when?
We began the newspaper back in 1998. This 2013 we'll be celebrating our 15-year anniversary. We basically started that it was a void in our community. The community was growing, although there was 2 other newspapers at the time. They were covering more of news from back home, which is good in all senses, but the point was we were here, and we needed news about here, what was happening, whether it was health, crime, finances, whatever, and that's what we started to do. We created the newspaper, we gave it a lot of local emphasis, and that's where we started capturing a lot of the market. And people started adapting to the publication as its #1 source during that time.
So what is the mission of El Conquistador?
Well, to provide a news source for our community, whether it's, again, information, community events, things that are happening. We try to emphasize on stories that normally the mass media won't cover, like the local neighborhood guy who has a small business, the young kid who just did some great stuff at school. So we try to do those type of stories.
And where is it distributed?
We distribute throughout Milwaukee, Racine, Kenosha, and Waukesha, with obvious heavy emphasis in the south side of Milwaukee, where the Hispanic population is really focused at. We distribute right in the 53204 zip code, 10,000 copies right there. So, and then from there we spread out throughout the city and the southeastern part of the state.
Besides like Racine and Kenosha and obviously Milwaukee, can it be found in other areas?
Well, in other areas we just pretty much mail it out to. If somebody asks us for it, then we send them a copy via mail. But other than that, we really don't have any distribution outside of those points.
And do you have like an online site as well?
Yes, we do. And actually we have one that is SpanishAirConquistador.com, and we're now starting another one, which is ConquistadorNews.com.
What's your target audience?
Our target audience is really family-orientated audiences. People who are just trying to get some information to stabilize their family, whether it's economics, health, education. So the idea is to just really, try to focus on that. We are bilingual, so we do cover English and Spanish, and that's the whole concept behind that. Is so in this way, no one is excluded from the publication. Everybody could read it.
I see.
Tell us about the reporters that write for El Conquistador, and what beats do they specifically cover?
Well, we really don't have a beat set up. Most of our reporters are just people from the neighborhood. Some have experience from school newspapers and etc., and now they've expanded into working for us. Others are just people who have a flair for writing and want to express it. We really try to focus more on community stuff. Lately, we've tried to expand into politics, get more people involved, like with taxes, voting issues, voting rights, immigration. So we've really taken a real leap into that.
And speaking about politics, what role did El Conquistador play with the past election?
Mostly what we did was we just informed people of what was happening. We did reports on the debates. We did cover the candidates on their issue. We don't really try to endorse candidates. We kind of like put the issues out and let the community decide who they want to vote for. We figured there's enough people telling everybody what else to do, so we just figured we'll put out the issues and let people make their own decisions.
How did you choose a common Spanish dialect for the newspaper?
I'm sorry, what?
How did you choose a common Spanish dialect for the newspaper?
Well, we just kind of like did it based on what the community wanted and needed. We just looked for, what was at the time, housing was increasing. We were also looking at people were looking for jobs and everything. So we started basically shaping the paper from the demands of the community. So what we found ourselves doing basically was a daily newspaper pounded into a little weekly.
I see. So, like in your newspaper, it will cover a lot of things. I mean, lots of topics.
Yeah. Well, we try to expand it. Like, we'll do community news. We'll do religion, classifieds, home improvement, health, auto. Just basically what's needed at that time, and we just pretty much cover it.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of stories do you cover that you feel that the mainstream media ignores?
Well, a lot of it is pretty much in our community, and sometimes what happens is, we get people who are doing stuff, and, the mass media will get wrapped up in whether it's president elections or, other events that have happened throughout, and they forget about things that are happening in our community, so we'll cover those. The other things, too, is that when it comes to crime, and I think the newspaper follows, like the larger newspapers and other media outlets, they follow more of what's going to get them quick results, where we try to stay focused more on, what happened. And when we cover crime, we don't do it more for sensationalizing. We do it more for like trying to get the community involved to help, either apprehend those individuals or to clean up the neighborhood, because, nobody wants to live in a neighborhood where it's full with crime, So that's what we try to do, is we try to get people to get involved.
The Hispanic community is very diverse. What do you think the traditional media gets wrong about the Hispanic community?
Well, I think one of the things is that they don't spend a lot of time with our community, so oftentimes I think that they get the differences between the cultures wrong. Mm-hmm. They'll get the differences of tradition and heritage. Oftentimes people see Hispanics as a race, but we're not. We're a heritage, mm-hmm. and it's quite different. So that's why, we have to, go over a lot of this stuff where, people start putting us into a stereotypical scenario, and we have to expand beyond that.
And speaking of that, are you your reporters for Conquistador who write, are they all mostly Hispanic?
Yeah, we've gone through quite a lot of different people. Again, we don't limit ourselves as far as, that we only want Hispanics, We've had various other people from different nationalities and stuff write for us as well.
Do you think that the newspaper has been successful among the Hispanic community because of the reporters who are Hispanic descent?
Well, I think we've been more successful because we cater to their needs. Mm-hmm. Like I said, we go out of our way. One of the things is, people often get a kick out of the idea is that sometimes I'll go do the route myself. And the idea behind that is that, it gives a face to the newspaper. People see me, they get involved, and they understand, what the publication is. And then all of a sudden it's not, oh, it's this newspaper on top of the hill that nobody knows who. It's, oh, it's Victor.
It's time for us to take a short break. When we come back, what impact does El Conquistador have on the Hispanic community? This and more when we return.
University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Visit uwm.edu for information.
Boy, boy, it's amazing how many stars there are.
You know what's really amazing, Clell, is that recent discoveries within the Orion Nebula lend credence to the theory of a whole other solar system, predating our own, of course, the origins of which remain in microscopic gaseous form, thus increasing the chances of our not being alone.
Let's see.
Welcome back to the U-View. On our set today is Victor Huyke, publisher of El Conquistador Newspaper.
Has the audience changed over the years?
Not really. I think we've been pretty much consistent of keeping community. I think we've gotten people who, out of curiosity, picked up the publication. When we first started, we were one of the few papers that was actually coming out with full color. At the time, a lot of the newspapers around were just doing what's called splash color. And we just went, all out and did full color. And we started getting a lot of response from various people, whether that they weren't Hispanics, And at first, they were calling up and asking us, like, what's the best Mexican restaurant? Where can they get the new Ricky Martin album? And at first, we thought that this was kind of like people pulling our leg. But then we started realizing these calls were more and more, and we started realizing that we've made an impact not just in the Hispanic community, but beyond.
So, what is your background?
Well, my background is I was born in Puerto Rico. My family has been involved in newspapers all that time. And part of the thing was that every time I was in school and we started a school newspaper, they always put me in charge of it. So, I mean, that's pretty much, you could say I've done nothing but newspapers all of my life. Here in Milwaukee, I've worked for the Spanish Journal. I've worked for the Crazy Shepherd, which is now called the Shepherd Express. I've worked for the Shopper. I've worked for the Sunday Post. Worked for the Spanish Times, the Spanish Tribune. I've worked for almost every newspaper except the Onion, but give me time.
So, like, when you were saying Puerto Rico, like you say you run the school newspaper, do you think any differences between the, any differences the media between Puerto Rico and America?
Well, I don't know. I think that, we've kind of like just done the newspaper and, we just keep on moving along. And I just say that, people themselves, they'll pick it up and judge the paper itself,
As you mentioned, you have a family history in Puerto Rico with the newspaper industry. Tell us a little bit more about that.
As far as my family?
Yeah.
Well, my grandfather owned a newspaper, and my great-grandfather owned a newspaper. Actually, it's kind of funny was that towards the 50s and 60s, they pretty much sold a lot of their stuff out to get involved in television. But, they still kept involved in, they would write for various papers and stuff like that. My grandfather ended up going more into sports, where my great-grandfather was more involved in politics and stuff. And actually, he was even briefly interim governor of Puerto Rico. And I guess that kind of like carried over into, the next generation.
Is there like an angle you like to cover?
Well, I really like to put both sides of the story. Oftentimes people think that I might lean one side towards the other, but I try to put both sides as much as possible. I really like people to pick up the publication and make their own decision. And our best bet is to hope that we give them the most informative argument on both sides and let the average person make their own decision rather than us saying, this is what you should think.
And how was your experience working for like the Spanish Journal and
Actually, it's
Shakara
great.
Express?
Yeah, I've worked for all the different papers, you know, and always had some really good experience. You know, you learn a lot of stuff and you just move on to the next one. And that's been the thing. It's like, you know, for us, we've kind of expanded our role. You know, we get involved. We have a quarterly magazine, La Conquistadora. We also do a Latino Family Expo. We just did one in October. We do that. That was our second year. We are currently working on our 7th annual wedding show. So, and what we do is we add a Hispanic flair to it. We do that with the wedding show. We do quinceañera as well as prom and baptism.
How was El Conquistador started?
Basically, it was 7 of us who got together and we got tired of working for everybody else. And we operated out of one of our friends' basement. And eventually we grew out of his basement to his living room, and then we grew into his dining room and kitchen, and he got upset and said, we got to go. So we found ourselves a little office, and we started working out of there.
And speaking of La Conquistadora, tell us about that.
Well, La Conquistadora was an idea that we had. We try to focus the Conquistador more as a newspaper, and we were getting people who were always asking us, oh, you know, you should cover this type of story, you should do this type of stuff. And a lot of it was, you know, oftentimes fashion, health, and various other subjects that we try not to do too much in the paper because, you know, in the paper we try to focus more on news. And with that was that one of our employees had said, you know, that we should target the Hispanic women. And the idea behind that was that although in the machismo world, you know, the man's the one who's supposed to be in charge of everything, but if you really look at it, it's the woman who's really in charge. You know, the man goes out and works, bring home the check, and she's the one that decides on what bills are going to be paid, what food is going to be served, what clothes are going to be bought for the kids, and everything else under the sun. So with that in mind, we started thinking, you know, we need to target the decision maker, you know, and that's what we did. We came out with La Conquistadora. We started focusing more on women's issues, health tips, beauty, politics, business, things that, you know, the average woman was looking at, and we started expanding from that. We didn't try to take the magazine and make it into one point of saying, okay, you know, this is the type of education level we're looking for, this is the type of business background we're looking for. We just created an issue or a magazine that was for women. And
who runs that magazine? Is it you or your wife?
Actually, it's me and my sisters. Okay. You know, Joanne, Miriam, Emma, Elizabeth, we all pretty much get involved. Okay. We have various people who have worked for us and, you know, put the issue out.
Tell us about La Conquistador.
What do you feel about the role the Hispanic vote played in this presidential election?
And the years to come, well, I think it's going to be a major role because as the Hispanic population and continues to grow, and we're looking at the, you know, the Hispanic population is growing in key states that have the highest electoral votes. And when you're looking at that whole image and the impact of nationwide, it'll just, you know, make the impact. And I think that, you know, people like President Obama and other candidates who are planning to run are starting to understand this and are seeing a clear vision of it. So that's why you see that even though Romney did not spend any time really in the Hispanic community, now he's realizing that that was his downfall, was the fact that he didn't spend any time in the Hispanic community.
And speaking of that, you know, the DREAM Act just passed. How does that make you feel? What do you think?
Well, I think it's a great idea. I mean, I've always felt that it was kind of dumb to punish a child for the actions of a parent, you know. I mean, you know, you're growing up and, you know, you're here. I mean, my belief is that our benefit is that the students will, you know, it benefits our country,
Definitely.
You know.
One more short break. We'll have more when we return.
University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Visit uwm.edu for information.
Boy, boy. It's amazing how many stars there are.
You know what's really amazing, Clell, is that recent discoveries within the Orion Nebula lend credence to the theory of a whole other solar system, predating our own, of course, the origins of which remain in microscopic gaseous form, thus increasing the chances of our not being alone.
Let's see.
Welcome back to the U-View. Victor Huyke of El Conquistador is on our set today.
Thank you.
Okay. Although you have a website, the actual paper is not on the site. Why so?
Well, the reason is that we try to avoid the web because we want people to go out and physically pick up the paper, and that's been a very good success for us. We experimented with putting the paper like on Facebook, and we did some other stuff, and it just didn't really pan out for us. Part of it is our community is not really into picking up the newspaper from the website, so we still had a strong following out in the community. We distribute in a lot of the grocery stores and various other places, so what happens is that, you know, the people come in and pick it up. The website, we use it strictly for marketing. You know, we put our ad rates on there, special editions we're doing, and various other things to catch people's attention.
And as we mentioned before, it's distributed through restaurants, other small businesses. Do you speak directly to the owners? Do you have to get permission for that?
Well, that's the thing is that, yeah, you know, you talk to the owner or manager of the place, you know, you explain to them what the publication is. We leave them a business card in case they ever have any questions or concerns about the publication. And that's pretty much what we end up doing is that, you know, we put it out, we talk to people, and the good thing about it is that we try to make it as convenient as possible for people to pick it up. So we'll put it in, you know, restaurants, doctor's office, laundromats, grocery stores, basically wherever people congregate is where we put the publication out.
Is it the same for La Conquistadora as well?
Yes.
Is El Conquistador a non-profit newspaper?
No, sometimes I wish it was, but no, we actually have to run it as a business, and you know, our bills are paid by whatever money we generate through advertisement.
So commonly, how do you make money on the newspaper?
Well, what we do is that we sell our advertisement, and that's how we generate our funds to operate the publication. And you know, it's basically we try to get year-round contracts to make sure that the publication is around. So you know, we try to sign up people for lengthy advertisements, so we know that we have a steady budget coming in.
What has been the biggest reward just for the Conquistador?
Well, it's kind of funny. You know, I still really enjoy the fact that when I drive down the street and I see somebody walking with a copy in their hand, you know, and to me, I don't know, I just get a kick out of that, that I see somebody who's actually walking with the newspaper in hand, or people are quoting the publication. And then, to me, makes me feel like we're actually doing something that people really like.
And to anybody who wants to write El Conquistador, do you have to have like a journalist background, or?
Well, no, I mean, it would help, but, you know, one of the things that we just really like is that people if they're interested in writing, that they're really informed on the issue, you know. You know, we just really like to print the story once, you know.
Is there any story in particular that has been very memorable?
Well, actually, it's been quite a lot of them. You know, we helped out with like the immigration marches. You know, we took a huge lead on that. We helped out various groups who were working on that. We also did things for like the city when it came to health issues like West Nile disease and stuff like that. We had, you know, printed Spanish stories about it so it could make an impact, and you know, people would be informed of it. whether it was education, crime, we've always just made sure that the community is well aware of it.
So how many employees in your group?
Actually, at our height, we had 15 employees, and now that things have gotten more and more modernized, we're down to 5 people.
5 people, how's that like?
Very hectic, but it gets accomplished, and then, with the newspapers, it's gotten to the point where with computers and everything, it's like when I first started out, oh my God, we were using what was called, keyline tape and cut and paste, and I mean literally by hand.
Wow. So technology has really made a big
difference.
difference.
Yeah, especially like in the last, 15 years.
Is it the same game for La Conquistadora, or is it like both La Conquistadora and El Conquistador?
Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, it's like when doing magazines before for color separation was a nightmare. Now you just hit one button and it's done.
So you say that your sisters, they run La Conquistadora. Do they have also like experience with the newspaper and all that?
Well, yeah.
Is it something that runs in the family?
Yeah, it's just, we've all just always been involved, and the thing is that we all have different roles on what we do. We're all in charge of one thing. I have one, Miriam will do up our administration. Emma does our accounts, payables and receivable. Joanne does our sales, so, Elizabeth does our sales, so, and I do the editorial, so,
What are their backgrounds? Are they all journalist background?
No, actually, my sisters went for school for something totally different. I was the one who dragged them into it.
So how about like those employees?
Well, all of our employees, are just pretty much people from the neighborhood, and we just pretty much keep it going that way. We have people that have worked with us for many years. The longest employee we've ever had work for us for 12 years, and he ended up starting his own business after that. So,
what do you see El Conquistador in the future? Like, do you see it expanding or staying?
Well, yeah, that's what we're trying to do more. So we're trying to reach out into a whole different aspect. I mean, I know often people say that the print media is dead because of computers, or the internet. But I mean, I look at it this way. Print media was supposed to die when TV was around, when the radio was invented, when magazines came out, and it's still around today, and it's going to continue to be around. People are tangible. They love it.
Definitely. Thank you. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you, Victor, for being with us today.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching the UView. For more information about El Conquistador newspaper, please visit elspanishelconquistador.com.
You can catch the Broadcast Club on campus cable channel 3. You can also watch all of our shows online and learn more about the Broadcast Club at uwma@pausetv3.com. Until next time, I'm Norma Ortiz.
And I'm Yuling. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye.